Before we get into it, wanted to provide a brief introduction. I am Natalina from Deloitte, and I'm a part of the GMC project team responsible for the creation of this new system. I'll be walking you through today's training, which will include some high-level slides and then a live demo of the system. There are also a few other colleagues of mine and Ginnie Mae representatives on the line to help answer any questions you may have. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. You can type them in the chat or stop me at any time and come off mute to ask. We want to make sure everyone leaves today with a comprehensive understanding of how to use the GMC financials module, so questions are encouraged. So to give a little background, the Ginnie Mae Central application went live in May 2024, which includes 3 modules: GMC Insurance to submit insurance policies, GMC Financials to submit audited financial statements, and GMC Compliance and Monitoring module for compliance reviews. GMC decouples insurance policy submissions from audited financial statement submissions, which were previously all submitted in the legacy IPA system. And today's focus will be on the GMC Financials module, how to access the module, and the process of submitting audited financial statements into GMC. For more details on Ginnie Mae Central and each of its modules, you can visit the Ginnie Mae website. There are multiple modernization bulletins that provide information on the changes, quick reference cards that provide step-by-step instructions on how to complete each action in the system, user manuals, and e-learning module videos posted to YouTube that give a comprehensive overview of each module. And if we have time at the end of today's session, I'll show you where you can find all these resources on ginniemay.gov. But if not, no worries, we will be sending out an email to everyone that attended today with the important links and these slides for your reference. Is there any questions before we get into it? If not, I wanted to start off with access. So to make sure your organization is able to complete a financial submission, you must have the applicable people from your organization assigned to the corresponding My Ginnie Mae functional roles. So for the financials module, there are 2 application roles: the basic user and the authorized signer. As you can see here, the basic user is the person who uploads the package and fills out the corresponding forms, whereas the authorized signer also has the abilities of the basic user, so they can upload the package and fill out the corresponding forms. They are also able to certify this submission. And just want to point out here, since this is where we get a lot of our questions, the basic user role is the same role that was used to access the legacy IPA module. So if you submitted in the past, you should be able to access GMC insurance and financials as a basic user. The important thing to note here is the financial statement authorized signer role is a net new role that is needed to complete certification and to ensure these submissions are certified by a user with the highest level of oversight and responsibility within an organization. This user must be on the HUD 11702, and as per the MBS Guide, Chapter 3, Section 7 requirement, must be the CEO, CFO, or equivalent. Your organization must have someone assigned to this authorized signer role in order to complete a review in Ginnie Mae Central. Please coordinate with your org admin to make sure that the necessary people involved in this submission process are assigned to the corresponding roles. So I know that is a lot of information. Is there any questions here on the changes to functional roles?
Yes, I do. So authorized signer, and I spoke to my Ginnie Mae rep about it from the last time this call went into session about the CEO, CFO equivalent. And he had said that as long as we are a signer in the 11702, we would be able to do this authorized signer. Is that accurate or not accurate?
So that would be accurate for the insurance module, which then they would have it, that is a different authorized signer role. However, for the financials module, that person that is certifying must be CEO, CFO, or equivalent.
We can't get anything else like a letter or like our CEO and our CFOs all sign our financial statements already. And what I expressed to our Ginnie rep is that we could ask them to, but in the interest of time, as well as making this an easy process, can there be some other considerations on this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that question open for one of the Ginnie Mae representatives on the line to answer, since it's a policy related question.
Okay.
John or June? This is Paul St. Laurent of Ginnie Mae. John or June on the line? Okay, Natalina, this is Paul. With regard to the question, no, the request will be denied, unfortunately. Ginnie Mae's decided that those authorized signers, CEO or equivalent, must be signing in GMC relative to the audited financial statement submission.
And these are still the same due dates in regards to, I guess, what is it, 90 days after fiscal year end?
Correct.
Yeah, as I mentioned to my rep, we may run into issues here. We usually only get our audited financials to the very last minute.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but there's also a feature, and Natalina will demonstrate this, to file an extension in the financials module.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, that's exactly what Ginnie Mae would encourage you to do is, come in with the extension request, come in with it at least 15 days prior to the deadline, as the guide states. And Ginnie Mae can be accommodating, right, to extend the date of the audit submission so you can get the appropriate signers to come in. I don't foresee that to be a problem. You just need to be proactive with the extension, I think, as perhaps a temporary solution. You can get some of those signers into the role.
Yeah, I don't think it's the issue of getting them in the role and being on the 11702. It's actually having them have the time to go into another system and make sure that it's an additional functionality. But if there's any consideration, I think myself, as other folks have expressed the same concern and interest.
Okay, well, we can take it offline. I will just kind of offer two last comments. I mean, number one, this is, after all, once a year, right? This goes on, right? This is, a once a year thing. And number two, I don't think the authorized signer is going to need a lot of time to be coming in and doing the certification, right? It should not be very long if all the staff have put together all the materials, compliantly per Ginnie Mae requirements, right? This should be not a very onerous process.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge all that, right? And I totally understand where you're coming from. I think in theory, yes, it sounds like it should be a non-event, but it's just reality.
Okay, well, thank you for the feedback.
You got it.
We have thought about it. For now, this of course is the requirement. If this does become, problematic, Ginnie Mae, of course, can revisit it. But, for now, that is the guidance.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Edward from Arbor. And question, what can somebody define or equivalent?
Okay, Edward, that sounds like another Ginnie Mae request. I feel like we've had this before. What Ginnie Mae will say about that is that within your organization, determine what equivalent means. It's not for Ginnie Mae to say.
So that could mean an AVP for all anyone, or an a senior vice president for all anyone knows, really, right?
Yeah, possibly. I think that's your organization to decide whether, that individual has the requisite, knowledge and skills to be able to, in effect, they're certifying to the accuracy and the information on the audited financial statement. If that's appropriate in your company's, viewpoint, then Ginnie Mae, should not have a concern with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, also, Paul and everybody else on the call, just a heads up, I pasted some text, which, again, we've had this question come up in the past, asking, what does or equivalent mean? And this response that I pasted in the chat is directly from Ginnie Mae's policy. So it's a little bit more explanation on what or equivalent is supposed to mean.
Okay, thank you for that.
And before I get back to it, I see that there's still one hand up. Is there any other questions here? If not, I just wanted to pull up the My Ginnie Mae homepage, just show you exactly where you're gonna access Ginnie Mae Central. So when you come here to log into My Ginnie Mae, as usual, you just click on the login and you use your user credentials to get you in. And then once you're signed into My Ginnie Mae, you will go to this Tools tab at the top of the page and click the drop down, and you'll find Ginnie Mae Central under Applications. And this is only going to show up if you have been provisioned one of the My Ginnie Mae functional roles that we just talked about. And then you'll be able to click in here and access Ginnie Mae Central. Any other questions about access? If not, let's move on to the audited financial statement submission process. So in Ginnie Mae Central, a review is going to be created at your organization's fiscal year end date. So that is why a lot of you who maybe have a fiscal year end date of 12/31 will not see a review on your homepage if you were to log into GMC today. The system will send out an email notification to users who have access, notifying them that a review is created. And once you have obtained your audited financial statements from your auditor, probably closer to the end of that 90-day window for most organizations, you will log into GMC Financials, and the first step is to complete the questionnaire. This is really important because here is where you upload the PDF version of your full financial statement package and answer some key questions. This helps drive the corresponding package sections, which will be the next step in the process, where you're able to populate some of the key information from your document. And then once all the package sections are complete, you will then send the documentation for certification. And this is where the final step requires the authorized signer to come in and certify and to submit to Ginnie Mae. And just want to clarify here that the authorized signer can do all the same role as the basic user. So if you're a smaller organization and the person that's going to come in and certify wants to do all the steps, that is possible. This is just showing here the distinction of what the basic user can do versus what needs to be done by the authorized signer. Is there any questions on this process? So to get into the system, you'll first get an email that is something similar to this saying that an AFS review is created, and it will give you the steps to complete this action. So first you're going to need to proceed to the financials module. So I am currently logged in as an authorized signer for Birch Mortgage, which is a single family non-depository. So please note that this example might be a little bit different from what you would see on your screen if you are not a single family non-depository. So to get into it, you'll see the current submission information on the homepage if there's an open review. Like I mentioned before, for most of you, when you log in today, you probably won't see a submission on your homepage and it will just be blank. Once I click into here, I'm able to see some summary information about my organization. So as you can see here, it's single family and non-depository, and then information on when the submission due date is. And for the case of this example, this organization has a fiscal year end of July 31st. So their due date is going to be October 29th. And then as we saw on that diagram, the questionnaire is our first step. So once we are ready, have obtained our full document and are ready to submit, we're going to come in and click this work on questionnaire button. And here you can see the first step is to upload our audited financial statement. And once we have done that, we are going to just answer some basic questions about our audit. So was the audit performed using GAGA standards? Yes. Was there a CFO change during the audit period? No. Does your audit include your parents' schedule? Again, just for this example, no. But in your case, if that is true, please answer yes. Has your auditor changed? No. Has there been a change in fiscal year end? Is your issuer inactive across all Ginnie Mae programs? Did your audit include consolidated financial statements? And is this a restated audit? And again, this portion is really important because you cannot change your work because it derives the package sections after you submit this. So if you're not 100% sure about what you have entered here, or this is not the right document that you want to submit, I would recommend that you save the work and come back to this or verify with someone else within your organization that all these answers are correct. Because what you answer here is going to also impact what you're going to have to upload information wise in our next step. So that is why pause here, make sure everything is correct, because you will not be able to go back and edit this section. So once you have confirmed all of this is good to go, then you can go ahead and click submit. And it's going to again remind you that you will not be able to make any changes once this is submitted. And once you have completed the questionnaire, you're going to be able to see what you have uploaded in PDF version on the left-hand side of the screen, and then just review the information that you have. And then now you're going to see this package section tab right next to the questionnaire tab, and you can go ahead and click on it. And so this is the next step of the process where we're going to key in the key information from your financial information. And then once all this is completed, that is when you are going to send it to the authorized signer. Is there any questions before I get into completing each step of the package sections? If not, I will go ahead and get started with the financial statement package section. So again, here we're just working with mock documentation for the sake of this demo, so do not pay too much attention to the numbers that we're keying in here, but just a few important things to note. So when asked for the starting page number, we recommend that you use the PDF page number that shows at the top of the screen. So that might show a different number on the specific page you're currently on because of maybe the first few filler pages in your documentation, but that way it's just easier and consistent. So right now I would put 2 here because we see that at the top of the screen. And then for the balance sheet, you're going to be required to enter the total assets and then the total liabilities along with your total equity. And then it's going to ask if there's a subsequent event note. And in this case, there isn't. And then for your income statement, same thing. You're going to put the starting page number for that part. And then you are just required to put your net income or loss. And here, there is a field to add any additional comments. This is not a required field, but if you want to provide any additional information for your financial statement, that's where you could do it here. And then once you have filled out the information here, you can go ahead and put complete section. And the difference between saving work and completing section here is that when I click complete section, it's going to go ahead and mark this section with the complete status here, which is important at the end because everything needs to be complete in order to send it to the authorized signer for certification. But you can still go back and edit it now, even though it's quote unquote complete. And moving on to our next section, which is the adjusted net worth. Similar to what just showed before, you're going to find the adjusted net worth documentation and provide the starting page number. And here you're going to be required to put the total equity. And then this is a requirement for single family. Again, it might show differently depending on what programs you're involved in. But here you're going to enter your Fannie UPB and the Freddie UPB. So as you can see here for the total government sponsored, it's 200,000. So just going to put 100,000 for each. And then the non-agency is listed here as 200 million. And then we can go back up here to add our unacceptable assets. And here you're able to key in the name. So whatever asset is listed here, just for the sake of the example, we're just going to put category 1, but follow your documentation and then the corresponding amount. And you would do this for each unacceptable asset you can add here, and then it will total them up for you. And then once you have done that, you are required to put your required net worth. And again, here you can add any additional comments or concerns that you may have for your adjusted net worth requirements. And then once you have completed everything, reviewed what you have put in, you can go ahead and complete this section. And then moving on to the liquid asset requirement. Again, like you saw in the last view, you have to put the starting page number And then you're gonna add the liquid asset. Here it's a little bit different than what we just saw on the unacceptable assets. You'll have a drop down with the like most common liquid assets that you'll see on. And then you can add it here, but if you do have one that's maybe not listed, you can click other and then type it in. But for the sake of our example, we're gonna put cash since that's all we have listed, and then enter the corresponding amount. Then we get into some more information regarding single family. So again, this might be a little bit different depending on what program you're involved in, but I am moving down here so we can see the corresponding information that we're gonna put in. So for the outstanding Ginnie Mae single family, we have 10 million. And then 2 million. 2 million and 1 million. Then it's going to ask you about if the issuer originated more than 1 billion, and in our case, no, and then the total required liquid asset amount. And then like the other sections, you're also able to provide any additional comments here, but it is not a required field. And then it is going to give you these little markers as you go along to make sure that you're meeting the requirements for each section. But as you can see here, the liquid asset requirements are met. So we're going to go ahead and complete this section. And moving on to capital requirement. Start by entering our page number here, and then it's going to ask for our total assets and then key that in here. And then our total assets for the Ginnie Mae requirement, we can see at the bottom here. And then when we type in this information, the system's gonna calculate the leverage ratio, which you should also see on your documentation. And then hopefully if you keyed in the right information, what's in the system is gonna match what's in your document here. And that is gonna also pop up if it's compliant with the capital requirements. So you can see here, we are good to go. We're gonna go ahead and complete this section. And then for the insurance requirements, it's just gonna ask for your total servicing portfolio UPB along with the page number, and then can add any additional comments. And then we're getting towards the end of our package sections. This being the test of compliance, which is going to ask if Ginnie Mae is listed as a major HUD program. So as you can see in the example here, you can see that Ginnie Mae program is listed. So we can go ahead and click yes. And for the sake of this example, we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies found. So we're gonna go ahead and say no. And kind of similar for internal controls and emphasis of matter, it's just gonna ask us if there were material weaknesses or significant deficiencies found. Again, for the sake of this example, no, but if there is, you'll click yes and fill out a little bit more information about what was found. And then lastly, our last package section, the emphasis of matter. Again, for our example, we do not have an emphasis of matter paragraph, so we're going to click no, but in the case that you do, if you click yes, it's going to ask you for a little bit more information. here that you'll have to populate, but there is not, so no, and then complete section. And then as you can see here now, everything's in the complete status. And because of that, this send for certification button popped up at the top right hand side of your screen, which was not previously there. So everything needs to be in this complete status in order for that to show up. Before we move on to the next step and send it to our authorized signer, is there any questions on filling out the package sections? If not, I'm going to go ahead and send it for certification. And it will just give you a pop-up to confirm that you want to send it to your authorized signer. Going to confirm. And then this action is complete. And now you can kind of see that you're no longer able to edit these sections, but it will show you what you have entered here so you can review it. And this will also be the view. So if you do have a different authorized signer than the person that entered the information, this is the view that they'll be able to see and review the information before they submit. And because I'm logged in as an authorized signer, just for simplicity of this demo, now I can see on my home page the certified AFS submission. And it also received an email notification. So anyone that holds this authorized signer role, once this AFS review has been sent for certification, you're going to get this email notification. And when you log into the system, you'll see it's ready for certification under this progress bar. And then you'll see this task on your taskbar in the left-hand side. So go ahead and click in on this action. And before you do anything, you'll have to accept this task. So for some reason, if you don't, then you'll have to allow someone else to do it. But since we are the authorized signer and the person who's supposed to submit, we're clicking accept. And here you'll see a summary of some of the information and just showing if you are compliant. If you aren't, you're going to have a red X here to kind of notify you and show you to make sure to go back and check that section if there is a concern. But in this case, we have reviewed all the information because we were the one who entered it. If it is an authorized signer that hasn't received the information, then they can go in on the review before they click certify and review all the information there. And once they read the certification language, can go ahead and click sign. And then when you're the final step of the certifying is using the RSA token. So here it says certify submission, and then after proceeding, you'll need to authenticate via RSA token secure ID. So when I click certify, I'm going to go ahead and get my app out and double check the code that it's giving me. And then once I see that, I can verify that by putting in that 8-digit code and then click validate. If that is correct, then you'll get a success message here, and then you can go ahead and submit. And just note that this, once you hit submit, it is sending it to Ginnie Mae, and it is out of your hand. You can no longer edit. So to know that you have submitted, when you come back to your home page, on the taskbar here, kind of showing you the different stages of the review, you're now going to show complete and green all across because you have done everything that you needed to do for this review, and now it's in Ginnie Mae's queue to review, and you'll see also the status as complete here. And then again, you can click in on it and you can review the information that you put, but you're no longer able to change anything. Any questions on this review process that I went through in the system? I think I see a hand went up. Jeff, do you have a question?
Hi, this is Edward again from Arbor, and my question is, how dramatically different is this for multifamily in relation to what you just demonstrated with single family?
So it'll be pretty similar. Some of the things that I showed today for single family are based on the APM 2209, which adds some of those single family requirements that we showed. But multifamily, for the most part, the same package sections again, and similar information will just be tweaked a little bit differently, few input fields.
Yeah, this is Jeff. And my question was kind of similar. Just curious, you said that this recording is going to be available. I'm just looking to see if to make sure I'll be able to get screenshots of all those questions and everything, so we can obviously be prepared prior to getting all this submission and everything. I think like everybody else, the concern, and I know we had the answer, is not so much just having somebody certify, but getting you know, our CEO, CFO, you know, signed in to Ginnie Net and getting them the token and all that's going to be the issue. But just want to make sure that we're able to, again, we're more multifamily, to have all those questions and everything, to see those ahead of time. So hopefully that will be part of this recording and we'll be able to screenshot those.
Yeah, so we'll send out some information after this session, including the recording and also the YouTube video that kind of goes through in depth of the step-by-step process. And like I said, you will be able to see the package sections. There are minor changes. So for example, some of the package sections, we can actually just come in here. And you see here how it's asking specifically for single family. So it will be a little bit different for multifamily, or whatever program that you're participating in. But the most generic questions, for example, like on the financial statement, everyone's gonna have to key in their total assets, total liabilities, total equity. So you can use that as a baseline, but again, it will be a little bit different from organization to organization, also dependent on what you key into the questionnaire. For example, if you do have your parent schedule or it is a consolidated financial statement, again, you'll expect a little bit of differences, but yes, you can use this as a good reference point of some of the key information that you will be required to input. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Any other questions before we go into our extension request process? So wanted to quickly go through the extension request process, which is something that was brought up earlier in this call. So if you anticipate there any delay in maybe getting your financial statements in that 90-day period, or getting someone a role, or getting the proper authorized signer into the system to do so, you can request an extension. And it is required that you do this 15 days before your original due date. So if you come into the system 10 days before, you will not see this functionality. It will just not be available to you. So if you are thinking ahead of maybe some delays, I would recommend that you do this with plenty of time so that you can get a little bit of extra time in order to submit. And as you can see here, this just adds these 2 steps at the beginning of the process. So the basic user or authorized signer can come in and request the extension, and they will put in some key information and submit your interim financial documents. And then this extension request will need an authorized signer to certify it. And then again, it's sent to Ginnie Mae, and your due date will change in the system. And then once you do have everything and are ready to complete the normal process that we went through, then you'll go back in and kind of do from start with the questionnaire to the end of certify like normal. It will just mean that you got some extra time to submit. And just to demonstrate this in the system, again, I'm logged in as an authorized signer, but as a different organization that has an open review that's not started yet. Because again, you wouldn't be able to do this once you start your review. So when you click in here and you go to the related actions tab, you're going to see request an extension. And here you can see that it says it needs to be 15 or more days before your submission due date. But again, this won't even show up if you are less than 15 days out. And when you click request an extension, again, this is the information you're going to have to fill out, starting with interim financial statements. And then you will be able to click due date. And this will monitor. So if you choose a due date that's farther than the system allows for extension request, then it's going to give you a notification. So as you can see here, I click 12/31, but it says the due date cannot exceed the 30 days past your current due date, which is November 30th. So we're going to have to go back and click a date that's only 30 days away, and that notification will go away. And then you'll have to give a reason for your extension. Again, here I'm just going to click demo for the sake of time, but please provide as much detail as possible for this extension. And then, do you expect to fail any of Ginnie Mae's financial requirements? No. Expected audit opinion unqualified. Do you expect to have an emphasis of matter, paragraph, or going concern included in your audit? No. If there's any additional documents relevant to the extension, you can upload those here, but this is not a required field. And then you can have to fill out information about your auditor. So in this case, I will just put my information. And once you have completed all the information, you can go ahead and click create extension request. And similar to how it does for the package section, a new tab is gonna show up at the top of your screen, and you can go ahead and click on the extension request. Since we have entered the information, now it's gonna say status, ready for certification. But in order to send it to the authorized signer, you have to click in like what I just did on the ID number here. And then once you do that, you can edit any information before you send it. But once you send it for certification, you won't be able to edit any of this key information. So we're going to go ahead and send it for certification. It's going to give you a confirmation message. And then we're gonna send it, and then now the status will be pending certification. And so, similar to what we had done for certifying the actual review, we're gonna get a task, if we're the authorized signer, to certify the extension request and can come in and confirm the information. But just for the sake of time, and since this is slightly repetitive, I just want to pause here and see if there's any questions on the extension request process.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so number one, you went so fast. I was not able to keep up with everything. But so if you're submitting your request for an extension, you still have to get your authorized signer, which is, the CEO, to approve the extension request? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so sorry for going fast, just we only have an hour and we're getting close to
Yeah.
the time, but just to review, and we can pause here to kind of go through this again. Yes, you will need to have an authorized signer certify this extension request before it goes into effect. So you can have a basic user come in and add the information that I just populated in the system. And then you'll have to send it for certification before that new due date goes into effect. Once the authorized signer confirms that, then the 30-day extra extension will go into effect, and you'll see that in the system, and then you'll be able to complete the following steps. But yeah, it's essential that an authorized signer must certify the request.
Right. I mean, and we've got authorized signers, but you're saying in this case, our authorized signer has to be the CEO, which is the main reason we're trying to get an extension in the first place, is trying to get the CEO to sign.
CEO, CFO, or equivalent, like we
Right.
mentioned earlier in the call, which is up to your organization. So this might be
Okay.
SVP, depending on the level or the oversight for your organization. But yes, they would have to certify here.
Okay. And this is way different than just submitting the file. I'm just saying that this is going to be kind of challenging. I've never looked at the financials before, so we're going to have to figure out how we fill that information out on our end before we even try to get it to the CEO or whoever our authorized signer is. This is just really challenging. I'm telling you, this is not good for us. So,
Who is the commenter? This is Paul from Ginnie Mae. I'm listening, and I do see your point. I do see your point. Can you identify yourself, please?
oh, who was just speaking? This is Carrie with Credit Human.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. It's a very good question, and I definitely see your point. But let me also say, right, that when you're submitting an extension request, you also are, making a certification to Ginnie Mae that some of the materials, right, in particular the unaudited financial statements, not the audited, are true and accurate to the best of your knowledge, right? So that's why the certification does apply as well, right? Ginnie Mae relies upon that information to be true, right, until such time that we can get the audit. Now, again, I do see the point that the prior gentleman, the extension would help kind of bridge the gap in time to, get the CEO or equivalent into the role and so on and so forth. I do see the point there, but it does apply as well, right? You are certifying to Ginnie Mae, right, that those interim financials and other materials you're filling out are accurate, right? So, but it's a very good question. I do understand, again, what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just want to echo what Paul said. Thank you for your feedback. And one of the reasons why we're having this session is to make sure that all users are aware of these changes and to give everyone a heads up and some time before you're required to come into the system and submit to get everything ready. Is there any other questions on the extension request or the review process in general, or anything about Ginnie Mae Central before we have to drop?
This is Carrie from Credit Human again. One more question. So if we are having issues with filling out this information and trying to populate it, who do we contact?
I recommend if you have any questions about specific to your audit, reaching out to your auditor if you have questions about the specific information that it's asking for, since they're the expert in this field.
No, I mean filling it out in the system.
Oh, if you have questions about
Right,
like
where to,
Ginnie
how to
Mae
click, where to
Central?
go. Yes, Ginnie Mae Central. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, getting into that. We first have those resources that I brought up at the beginning that will kind of guide you through the system if you have any questions. And then that you can reference these as you go along. But if you do have a question that persists, you can reach out to Ginnie Mae, and we'll send you all of the information via email. That way you have the specific email and phone number that you can reach out to if you have any questions as you're going through this process. And again, in the resources, it also provides that information. So that way you have it. We'll send it out after this call via email.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? If not, thank you all for joining today. And like I mentioned, you will be receiving an email with all this information, including these slides, all these important training materials, and then also who to reach out to if you have any questions as you go through this process. So stay tuned for that. And just want to thank you all again for joining, and hopefully this was helpful in getting you familiar with the GMC financials module.
Yes.
Thank you.
And just to quickly answer one of the questions that is in the chat about, will there be a training for the insurance module? And so currently, because insurance due dates are a little bit more sporadic throughout the year, we've been holding technical assistance sessions, and we invite the people with upcoming submissions to attend. And this is similar to what we went through today, but it's just a more tailored experience for those people coming up with insurance. And maybe in the future, we will have a larger insurance training if needed.